Welcome into Picks and Parlays Bettors Edge. We've got Week 12 NFL. This is our normal Sunday slate here in Pony. We're starting right in the AFC North with the Steelers and Bengals. Big news this week, the Steelers finally fire offensive coordinator Matt Canada. I talked about the parallel between my teams, Penn State and the Steelers this year, and then they both go and fired their offensive coordinator just a week apart. These teams are uncanny in their similarities, but what's really going to matter is heading into Cincinnati against a Burrow-less Bengals now for the rest of the season. It's sort of a pick 'em, and the Steelers are actually a slight favorite. Do you like them in this spot?
I really do. Sorry, Craig. I mean, you had the worst thing happen to you last week.
He wanted to wear his Bengals jersey.
It was setting out to wear today, and I was like, I can't do it.
You got coal in your stocking, early Christmas present, and I got the gift I wanted all year, which is this offensive coordinator fired Matt Canada, who never produced a 400-yard game in 45 games as offensive coordinator, and they're 16 points per game, 28th in the NFL. That'd be the worst finish in scoring ever in the entire history of the Steelers, almost 100 years now. So I like the Steelers. I think there's the bump that you get from making a coaching change. We've seen that this year. The Raiders initially with Antonio Pierce. The Bills fire Ken Dorsey. They had their big offensive explosion against the Jets. So I do think there'll be a bump there. I think it'll loosen guys up. And then it's just a first-time quarterback, Jake Browning, who's an undrafted free agent. The last time the Steelers lost to a quarterback making his first career start was Brett Favre in Atlanta in 1992. So Tomlin's never lost to one of these guys. His defense, I think, is good enough to get the job done in Cincinnati and just win the game -1.
I agree with you here, but I'm taking the Steelers straight up. Steelers money line, not trying to get any crazy with any numbers. Just take the Steelers straight up in this one. They just had a really good test against a great defense in the Cleveland Browns. So I'm going to say they have a little bit of an easier time transitioning this offense under new leadership. So I feel confident that the Steelers can get it done. Please don't let me down again this week because that one hurt last week.
Yes, it
But
did.
I'm going to say that they're going to inch this one out, and if they don't, I mean, they're in a mound of trouble. So this is sort of a must-win for ego, for pride, for Kenny Pickett more than anything. Steelers money line.
And their playoff chances.
And their playoff implications, absolutely, most importantly. Craig, are you feeling good with the Bengals?
Tough week to be a Cincinnati fan. I will say there's a couple positives here, even though I'm going to just say I'm taking the Steelers on the money line. The positive is you play on Thursday night. So you get kind of the mini bye, and you need that when you're going to be putting a first-time quarterback. They also should be getting healthier, where I think they'll have almost everybody back. T. Higgins and Hendrickson and Hubbard look like they'll play. So I think maybe it's a lower-scoring game. I would probably lean towards the under. Officially, I'm going to take the Steelers. And I just, I think at this point, if you're a Cincinnati fan like I am, you kind of want to lose out because you're probably going to lose T. Higgins because you can't afford to keep them all. And you could draft a higher, receiver. So to me, this is selfish. Let's lose out, Bengals. Burrow will be back next year. Take the Steelers here.
ride with the hope in Joe Burrow next season.
Yep.
All right, another AFC North team, the Cleveland Browns. They're headed out west to face the Denver Broncos. They're 2.5-point underdogs in Denver. The Broncos are back in the saddle, baby. They won 4 straight. Craig, can they make it 5 against a good Cleveland Browns defense?
I like Denver here. I've been a doubter. They didn't cover last week, but now you're getting them under the field goal. So I would get on them early because, there's nothing worse than if you wait till the game time and you get this at 3. So I see it at Denver -2.5. This Cleveland offense isn't good. I mean, they won last week by default. Their defense was great, as we know they are. But, the one thing that Russell Wilson has always been able to do is extend plays. I think he does that this week, and I think that's the key for a couple big plays. I'm going to take Denver minus the points. I'm not saying let's ride yet, like the Broncos maybe fans are, but I think in this spot, it's a good spot for Denver.
Do you know what else Russell Wilson can do really well? Throw touchdown passes. Listen to this. He's bottom 5 in passing yards right now, but top 5 in passing touchdowns. So he's now getting more effective when it matters most, finding his guys in the end zone. I'm taking Denver on the money line in this one. And the reason being is when you see a stat like that, the Broncos are at least producing touchdowns. They're putting up some points. So even if they can score, I think 2 touchdowns against the Browns, I think that's enough to win because I have no confidence in what the Browns can do offensively right now. So I think they're going to be playing catch up possibly in that game. So I would say taking Denver straight up would be the better play because I trust their offense slightly more. And they're more well-balanced if you look at it defensively as well. Pony, do you agree or disagree?
I really don't agree because I watched the Broncos. They went and kicked field goals the whole game against Minnesota until the very last drive to win it. And I just think that I give Minnesota credit for the improvements they've made defensively, the strides this year. But after watching the Browns closely again last week, I mean, there's an argument to be made that they're the best defense in the entire league. They've given up fewer yards to this point in the season than any team in the last 15 years. So they're setting records. Myles Garrett's coming off a big game against the Steelers. Will Russ cook? I don't think he will for the first 55 minutes of this game. I mean, he didn't. Last week, they had to settle for field goals. So we know Cleveland wins the time of possession in every game. They control the clock. They've had more offensive plays than any team in the league. And so I know they're just a slight underdog. I don't really care about the points. I'd rather just bet the money line for the extra value and say that defense travels in this game and they end Denver's winning streak.
All right, we'll see. We've got 2 on one side, 1 on the other. When it comes to Buffalo in Philadelphia, the Dolphins have won 4 straight, and we've seen the Bills struggle all season long. They're a very inconsistent team at this point, and now they find themselves as a field goal underdog in the Eagles' home stadium. The Eagles are a hard team to play at home in that atmosphere. So, Pony, when you look at these two teams, how are you feeling about what Buffalo needs to do in this matchup?
I think they got to find and bottle up what they did against the Jets and carry it over into this game, which we'll figure out. Was the Jets defense playing poorly because they were frustrated with how their offense was doing, or is that really a positive? A compliment, a testament to the Bills' offense and what they were able to do to one of the better defenses of the NFL. So that is the mystery going into this game. I will say with Philly, and I've said this a few times, I feel like they're not as good as their 9-1 record. They've dodged a lot of bullets this year. I kind of feel like they're ripe for a loss. So I was wrong about Buffalo going to Cincinnati in a primetime spot where they needed to win. I actually feel good about them here. Because it's a field goal, I will take the points. I won't bet a money line. I think the Bills, there's a lot more riding on them in this game. They need this game, I think, a lot worse than Philly. So I'm going to roll the dice with them and say they get the 3 points and maybe even win.
I could agree with a lot of that, and I understand what you're talking about when you look at Philly's record, but also in those 4 straight wins, 2 of those teams lead their respective divisions, so they are beating teams that are well battle-tested, and then 2 of the other wins are against divisional opponents, so like it or not, a win is a win in this league, and they're coming out on top, so I could probably make an argument for Philly in this one as well, but what I like better is the over 48.5. The Eagles are averaging 27 points per game right now. If they can capitalize on some of Josh Allen's turnovers as well, that can help stack the board in their favor. Josh Allen and company still putting up 31 points against a Jets defense who's been very good this season, so hopefully they take some of that momentum over, and maybe we'll see these 2 quarterbacks duel it out just a bit. Craig, where do you stand in this game?
I mean, I think this is a really good spot for the Bills. I mean, they got the get-right win last week. Like you said, they're in a must kind of win spot. They need a signature win. A lot of people say, well, that Miami win was signature. I don't really think it was because we've seen what Miami, they can't beat anybody good. Yeah. So I think this is the game, and you also face a short week for the Eagles, and the Eagles are coming off the revenge game from the Super Bowl. So it was like, the Kelsey Bowl, all that.
Yep.
I think this is a perfect spot for the Bills. I just think Josh Allen just got to avoid turnovers. Play action passing, I think he can be really good at it. They got to run the ball to do that. And I like Cook in that run game to get done. This Eagles defense isn't what they were last year.
No.
They've given up lots of points. Kansas City turnovers were the only reason they didn't score more points. I don't think they turned the ball over this week for once for Buffalo. Give me the Bills and the points.
Put up the points. I need the over in that one.
The over sounds good. I think the over will be good.
Ravens and Chargers, Sunday Night Football. Now get this. The Baltimore Ravens have been fantastic to watch this season. They are actually a 3.5-point favorite in LA on Sunday night. Pony, you're over here. Your face is sort of telling it all. You've got some opinions.
I do.
Do you like Baltimore in this spot?
I really don't. The Chargers, I think, are at critical mass right now. They're 4-6. Brandon Staley, again, I think has been a disaster as a coach. He's now fighting and picking apart reporters after games. You could tell it's getting to him. I think it's the 11th hour for him. I could see them losing this game and firing him, actually, and giving Kellen Moore a shot as the head coach there with Justin Herbert. To blow that game against Green Bay, not good. But even without Joey Bosa, I think that the potential is there for them to score points. And Baltimore, most of their success has come at home this year. Their wins against Cleveland and Cincinnati come with the asterisk of quarterback injury for Cleveland. Burrow wasn't healthy in either game. They've pounded the Seahawks and Lions at home, but those are NFC teams, and Jackson always beats those guys. So they're the number 1 overall seed right now in the AFC. But I'm still questioning Baltimore and whether or not they should be a 3.5-point favorite in this game. That's why I'm going to take the Chargers.
Especially potentially with their offensive injuries, right?
Yeah.
OBJ's out, Mark Andrews. Those are 2 prime targets. Yep, 2 prime targets for Lamar Jackson, which is why my best bet in this one and best bet of the week is going to be looking at Zay Flowers over 57.5 receiving yards. Every time I watch the Ravens, he's somebody who makes a play that I just go, wow, I really like this guy, and I like to see what he can do. When you look at the 2 guys that are out, I just mentioned OBJ and Mark Andrews. When you look at the stat sheet for the Ravens, you have Zay Flowers, you have OBJ, and you have Mark Andrews. So now those are 2 prime receivers that Lamar Jackson will be without. So I think I like your bet in that way, Pony, but my best bet is going to be Zay Flowers being consistent and now getting more targets because the number 2 and number 3 guy behind him are out. Craig, what about you in this one?
I'm right on the Chargers with you. But I think the safer play is take the over. I mean, this is a must win. Their defense isn't going to stop the Ravens. The Ravens have been able to pretty much, other than, a couple quarters where, they can just run the ball when they want. They can play action pass. And then when you think you have them, they have the best escape quarterback since Michael Vick, and he just absolutely torches you, and it breaks your back. I think that the Chargers are just going to have to outscore them. I don't know how they're going to do it, but I think there's going to be a really close game. I would take the points, but the better play over. Ravens last week went over with the Bengals quarterback going down, basically only played a third of the game or, something like that, a quarter to a third of the game. So it was all on the Ravens offense to do it. So I think this week is another over game for that, even a good Ravens defense.
Yeah, and Zay Flowers is going to have a good game. He was my best bet in this game over 57.5 receiving yards. Zay Flowers over this is going to be my best bet of the week. Missing OBJ, Mark Andrews, like I had said. Plus, the Chargers are dead last in the league at protecting against the pass, so I think he has a big game. Look for Zay's targets to increase, and I'm going to say Lamar's going to rely on him a lot in this one to have some of that higher scoring offensive production. Do you guys have a best bet of the week, or are you going to double down on anything that we've talked about thus far?
Well, I have 5 best bets this week. Thursday, I've won.
Big money.
Friday, I have 1. Sunday, I have 2. And Monday, I have 1. So one of the 2 that I have on Sunday here, I like the over. I just said it about the Ravens. I just think this is a shootout similar to what the Lions game was, where it's like the Chargers just know we got to throw the ball down the field. I just don't see how Ravens are stopped on offense either. So there's only one way to go for the Chargers, and that's to outscore them. I think Kellen Moore finally starts throwing the ball down the field. If the Johnson doesn't drop that touchdown, look at the points they put up last week. So I think they'll go back to him early this week, and I think he'll have a big game.
Pony, how do you feel? Doubling down or looking at a different game?
I got another game. It's the NFC South matchup. The winner of this game is in first place between the Saints and Falcons, and Atlanta made the decision this week. They're going to go with Desmond Ridder for the rest of the year. The Heineke thing's over. He got hurt in their last game. It's Ridder's job now, boom or bust. For New Orleans, we don't know. It looks like it's going to be Jameis Winston in this game because of Derek Carr's injury, still in concussion protocol. All of the everything that's come out of New Orleans suggests that they don't want to play Jameis Winston, that this coach, Dennis Allen, does not like the topsy-turvy nature of having Jameis Winston as his quarterback. And I think that's going to create a problem with them on Sunday where you'll see Jameis, you'll see Taysom Hill. I think they're going to be out of sync the entire game because they don't have their starting quarterback. It is in Atlanta. If the Falcons win, they're in first place. So I'm going to take them money line to win this game by hook or by crook and find their way to the top of the NFC South standings by the end of the afternoon.
An interesting slate of games this week. So much NFL football, so many great games with good storylines. And like we said, could some head coaches be gone after this one? What will happen with the Steelers and their offensive coordinator situation? Will we see a spark? So much to talk about. You can find more of how we feel about these NFL matchups over on the Picks and Parlays app. So make sure you download that and get one of Craig's 1,000 best bets for this week as well. Thanks for tuning in.